One pastor told me that recently he has, in 3 years of ministry, yet to join in marriage a couple who were not living together. The exceptional has become, in the past decades, the normal. And now living together before marriage is more than normal. It has become the absolute expected. Children born this year to parents who are not married total 1/3 of all births in the United States. Our rural Upper Peninsula of Michigan and the North Woods of Wisconsin, where I serve, exceeds the national rate. In all things sexual, what was once exceptional has become usual. Psychologist and therapist William Pinsoff is president of the Family Institute at Northwestern University and director of its Center for Applied Psychological and Family Studies. His new analysis of family recently appeared in the Family Process Journal. He writes, "Divorce should be regarded as one of the normal social events in the life course of modern families. Living together should be seen as legitimate end state in itself." So how does the Church of Jesus Christ speak to this issue? How do we as a part of the Christian community address this huge change in values, in behavior of our families? The church seems not to have a message here. It is pretty quiet out there. Our church has yet to find a voice. Writing of the curious silence in regards to sexual ethics, Pastor Philip Max Johnson has written in Lutheran Forum a critique of all of us in the church. He says, "We are so compromised by our pastoral silence regarding sexual behavior, so embarrassed by our own personal failures, so jaded by the general ethical chaos, that clarity or courage on the matter of homosexuality seems out of reach. The need for sexual expression, the quasi-religious status granted to romantic love, the right to happiness, the shrinking of marriage down to the single dimension of mutual happiness, the general separation of sexual love from fecundity, the naturalization of lust, these cultural orthodoxies and influences hem us in. The call to chastity can be heard only as the imposing of a cruel and unusual punishment." Church unity. Those who would advocate a change in our current practices in our church in regards to the rostering of non-celibate gay and lesbian persons are well entrenched and well funded. They probably do not represent a majority of the laity of this church, but they may represent a majority of key decision makers. Gary Wills is an author and journalist. In his superb book, Certain Trumpets, he writes about leadership and the power of a determined minority within democratic institutions. He says, "Not many people will vote with their whole lives, give their days and nights, their money and influence to a single cause. But those who do have a disproportionate impact on society, as one would expect from their investment of energy and conviction, as compared with the lukewarm or diffident commitment of others. This is why," he says, "intense minorities often prevail over lackadaisical majorities in democracies." The issue of homosexual acceptance amongst our clergy, albeit championed by a minority in the whole church, may become accepted. Accepted, that is, by our democratic church, expressed in the 2005 Churchwide Assembly of the ELCA. An activist minority can make all the difference. St. Paul Reformation Lutheran Church of St. Paul, Minnesota states in a June 2002 letter to the bishops of this church that it has a budget of $116,445 to distribute a videotape entitled "This Obedience," which it plans to send to each voting member of the 2003 Churchwide Assembly. In their letter to me requesting funds for this project, this movement has decided to make this issue a justice and even faith-centered question. It is being thus elevated to a doctrinal question too. The letter says the best way to change minds in the fight for spiritual equality is through the personal stories and journeys of our gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered brothers and sisters. One of the questions that I receive often from people in my congregations when this issue comes up is the practical question: how much money, how much energy will be expended to obtain the desired political outcomes at the 2005 Churchwide Assembly? Does anyone doubt that in many synods there will be slates of candidates advanced with this one agenda item in mind? Does anyone doubt that there will be those going to Orlando that year who will be there only to change our current practice, and maybe some going there only to maintain the current practice? Is this healthy? It is clear to me that if the 2005 Churchwide Assembly accepts the ordination of non-celibate homosexuals, what will follow is the marginalization and finally the proscription of teaching of sexual ethics that does not include sexual activity as a viable option. And those of us who do not find homosexual activity as God-pleasing will at first unofficially, but eventually officially, be placed in the same category as Lutheran racists of 50 years ago, or those who opposed women's ordination in a generation past. Candidacy committees will soon eliminate candidates for ordination who believe that the Scriptures do not approve of homosexuality. They will insist at least that candidates, that they maintain an open mind on the issue. Our seminary faculties will soon face a litmus test of a new orthodoxy. All of this will happen very quickly, and those who believe that homosexual activity is wrong will be in short order considered fundamentalists. Pastor Leonard Klein has done us all a service by articulating the questions that must be asked if this church is to sanction committed homosexual relationships. If we as a church body bless these unions or allow pastors to live in such so-called committed relationships, questions need to be asked. Klein writes, how will the ELCA know what a committed relationship is, when it has begun or when it has ended? Will parishes be expected to consider partnered gay candidates on the same basis with other candidates for call? Will they be denied candidates if they refuse? Or will the ELCA assume that partnered gay clergy are only to be sent to a certain subset of parishes and institutions that have said they are willing to have them? What impact would that have on the unity of the denomination? Will pastors who refuse to accept partnered gay clergy as fit colleagues be reprimanded, disciplined, or discriminated against in the call process themselves? Will bishops and synods who refuse to ordain or accept partnered gay candidates remain in full and harmonious communion with those who do and with the ELCA as a whole? And on it goes. Will parishes be expected to allow partnered gay clergy and their partners to occupy the parsonage? Will they be expected to provide housing allowances that are suitable for a single person or for a couple? Will parishes be accepted to accept public displays of affection between partnered gay clergy and their partners? To what degree? Will partnered gay clergy who break with their partners be regarded as the same as divorcing clergy? At what point will a change in partners constitute disciplinary action? Will it be acceptable to divorce a spouse and thereafter enter into a same-sex relationship? What about the opposite case? He continues on in that vein. Will the church health and pension plans extend benefits to partners of partnered gay clergy? Will congregations be required to provide such benefits? What will partnered gay clergy be expected to preach and teach about marriage? The last time I counted, the Constitution and bylaws of my synod told me that I have 37 different responsibilities in this office as bishop. Pray for your bishop. The first one listed is to be the synod's pastor. The second one charged to my responsibility is to, quote, preach, teach, and administer the sacraments in accord with the confession of faith of this church.